Namaste, Yogi. Welcome to class. Today we're doing a 30-minute yin practice, so this will be a quick, quote-unquote, practice, but as you know, nothing in yin is quick. It's actually quite the opposite. In a yin-style practice, you are holding the poses for 2 to 5 minutes each, so unlike our vinyasa-style sequences where we have 30, 40, 70, 80 poses throughout the entire practice. This one, we only do about 5 to 10 poses, and then we hold them for longer. So doing this form of practice reduces your stress, it lowers your blood pressure, it encourages flexibility, so it's really important to have both yin and the yang style practice in your body. Yin yoga is inspired from traditional Chinese medicine, and it also integrates in yoga poses from ancient India, hatha yoga practices. So we're using the poses along with Chinese medicine in order to align the meridians in our body, to remove blockages, and just feel better overall in our body. This class is great if you're looking for a way to move in your body, but you also want to take it easy and have a rest day. Or you can also use this class after you finish up a strength training class to kind of cool down and add in that yin to your yang. For class today, all you will need is a couple of pillows or bolsters or blocks or couch cushions, whatever you have. We'll be using them later. And if you'd like to add in some music, you can head to our Spotify channel, link below in the description, and put on some chill beats as we enter into this easy flow. We'll begin in deer pose with the right leg forward. So come onto your mat. Your legs come into a position that's close to both of them being at 90 degrees. But even as I say that, I would like you to erase the fact that there's any alignment cues, especially when it comes to a yin yoga class. That's why some of the poses are actually named differently, because it gets you to a little bit more of outside of the structure of what you're used to calling the pose into making the pose work in your own body. So this one here is deer pose. So once you have the legs lined up, your right leg is forward, left leg is back. You could also bring the heels closer to the hips if that's better. Again, make it work for you. We're gonna start to walk our hands forward over the right thigh. And we're going to be here for a few minutes. So now is a great time if you want to grab that pillow or that bolster. You can place it on top of your thigh, underneath your chest as you lower down. Usually in a yin practice, your body opens up because you are in a pose for a few minutes. So it's good to not push yourself too deep at the beginning, knowing that you're going to be here for a little bit. It's better to slowly ease your way into each pose. So once you've found a position that feels comfortable for you in your body, you can relax any areas of tension that you're still holding on to. If you'd like to place a pillow or a bolster underneath your forehead, you're also welcome to do that, especially if you feel any strain in the neck. As you continue to put your awareness on the breath, then you also continue to relax the tension in your body. We're here for just about 1 more minute, so maybe 7 to 10 more breaths. Focus on one breath at a time. Make your way out of the pose, walk your hands back, lift the chest up, move that pillow off to the side if you had it there. You're going to keep the right leg where it's at. We're going to come into a square pose. So lean over to your right, swing that left leg forward, and then you'll stack the left ankle on top of the right knee. Maybe readjust the hips so that your two shins are basically on top of each other. And then have a little bit of a flexion in the feet. You don't have to be too aggressive or too tight about it, but just avoid pointing the toes super hard. So a little bit of a flexion in the feet. Maybe for you, this pose looks more like this, where both of your knees are super high and away from each other and away from the floor. And if that's the case, you can just walk your hands back behind you and then lean back as you relax the legs. And as your hips begin to open more, that external rotation gets a little bit deeper, then the legs will get closer to the ground. But it takes time. Especially in a yin style practice, you really don't want to be forcing or pushing or pulling anything. Instead, you want to relax. I know it sounds a little counteractive. By relaxing more, you can get deeper, but in yin yoga, you want to really encourage the muscles to relax, because then it sort of teaches the neurons in your capsules of your joints that they are in a safe place. And then over time, the joints start to give the muscles a little bit more permission. And it's almost like your body begins to trust itself a little bit more. But if you push your way into it, if you start to feel sensations of pain or tingling or numbness, then that's really the opposite of what you're looking for. So you never want to push yourself or come into a space of pain in order to obtain the perfect pose, because there's no such thing as a perfect pose. You always want to come back to the functionality of what you're trying to stretch and strengthen in your body. And in this case, it's to encourage that external rotation of the hips. So just go really easy here. I know it can feel really intense, so that's really when you bring the awareness back to the breath even more. You can keep your hands here on the ground. You can also gently place them on the left shin. Maybe even close the eyes. Blink open the eyes if you had them closed. And then make your way out of the pose. You're going to lift your left ankle off the knee. And then just bring both legs in front of you, keep the legs bent, heels down on the ground, hands behind you, and just windshield wiper the knees for a moment. Release the tension in the hips. And we'll move into deer pose on the left side. So the left leg comes down in front of you, and the right leg comes back behind. Again, option to grab a pillow or a bolster as you make your way down towards the ground. Once you're comfortable, then again you come back to the breath. Slow, deep inhales, slow, deep exhales. See if you can make your exhales a little bit longer than your inhale. When you do that, you start to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, that part of your system that is the rest and digest, the restore and heal. We really want to invite that into our body more. We have about 10 breaths left here in this pose. So take a moment to see if you're holding tension anywhere. And if you are, then send a signal from your brain and tell that body part to relax. With the help of your hands and your arms, start to push your chest up as you come out of deer pose and into square. So again, left leg stays where it's at. You're just going to lean over to the left, swing your right leg forward, And again, stack the right ankle this time on top of your left knee. Maybe readjust the hips. And then you can rest the hands wherever it feels good for you. And as you arrive into a position of stillness, option to close the eyes and put even more attention on the breath. Continue to relax and soften. And of course, back off if you start to have any sensations of pain. The more you can relax, the more your body begins to open up. And the mobility in the joints, the flexibility in the muscles, that really only begins at the 2-minute mark of holding a pose. So that's why in this form of practice in yin, we hold these poses for so long. If you're new to this form of practice, it might feel like you're holding a single pose for 30 minutes. But that also makes it part of the practice, is remaining present with the breath, not wondering how much longer we have to hold it, or feeling we're not being productive because we're not physically moving. Productivity is not always measured by moving. It can also be measured by consciously slowing down, by being still, by being present. It's often even more productive than the opposite. So if you're feeling like you want to get out, change it up, move, then ask yourself if it's really because your body wants to move, or is it because your mind wants to move? And if it's your mind, then take a deep breath, relax, just be okay with being where you are, without the need to change anything, without the need to judge anything. Just be in this moment with the breath. Release out of the pose. Remove the legs. Again, heels down, windshield wiper the legs. Bring back that synovial fluid in the hips and the knees. And then come into saddle pose. So we'll do a supported saddle, so please grab those pillows or cushions that you have. You're going to place them behind you. Actually, I'll probably do a little bit higher. And then you're going to bring the legs to both sides of your hips. So it's almost like a hero's pose, but in this variation, I'd like you to have your hips between the heels. So if this is already too much for you to sit all the way down onto the ground before we lower back, then you're going to grab a bolster and place it underneath your hips, and then you can start to lay back. So you might have no bolsters or pillows here. You can just lay all the way onto your back, arms overhead, that's fine. Or you might have like 5 or 6 pillows stacked up here, and for you the pose might just look like this. And that's perfectly fine too. What we're looking for here is a little bit of an internal rotation of the hips. That's why we want to have the heels outside of the hips before we start to lay down. So you might need to play around with the height of the pillows or cushions in order to arrive in a comfortable spot. If this is too much on the ankles, you can also place some pillows underneath the ankles as well. In all forms of yoga, but especially yin, we want to use the props in a way that it encourages the body to come into a position where you have the least amount of resistance. So there's no sensations of pain or forcing anything. You're adding a little bit of compression and tension in the joints, but you're not overdoing it. We're here for just a couple of minutes. So really melt right into the pose. With every inhale, feel the lift in the chest. Your heart reaches up towards the sky. And every exhale, the belly button pulls back towards the spine. Your shoulders melt down towards the ground. Slow, deep breaths. If your mind has started to wander into the future or into the past, invite yourself back to the present moment. Invite yourself back to this breath. With the help of your arms, start to lift yourself back up. Come back out of the pose gently. Move the pillows off to the side. And lift the hips up and over. You're going to make your way onto your back once again. Hug the knees into the chest. Give yourself a little squeeze. And then come into a stirrup pose. So you're going to reach between the legs, hold on to the outsides of the feet. And then the knees come down towards the armpits, towards the ground. Now, if this is already too much of a reach for you, or you feel like it's hurting your hip flexors or your anything really, if anything is in pain or if this is uncomfortable, then you can release the feet and just place the hands on the backs of the hamstrings. It's also perfectly fine. Once you've found that stillness again, come back to the breath. Over and over, I remind you of this because the mind is so quick to wander no matter how many years you've been practicing. And we're always working on that introspection and developing our awareness. The more present we can become, especially on our mat, the more we practice presence and the awareness. Then when we step off the mat and into the world, we have a little bit more awareness around our actions, around that voice in our head, and the ability to remain a little bit more present no matter what life throws at you. Release the legs, hug them into your chest. One last squeeze. And come into Shavasana, corpse pose. Let the feet naturally fall open. The hands come down to your sides. And you can stay here in Shavasana as long as you'd like. But we usually encourage at least 2 to 5 minutes. Shavasana allows you the chance to integrate the changes into your body, into your mind. Gives you the opportunity to completely surrender control, to allow yourself to just be as you are. And it's something that we should really do at the end of every form of physical movement. It would be great if they had Shavasana after a CrossFit class, or after cycling, or football. Because you have to remind your body to shift away from your sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system. And Shavasana is one of the easiest ways to do that. So don't worry so much about what's going in the body. You don't have to try to overanalyze anything. It works all the magic on its own. Your only job here is to relax. Notice the inhale and the exhale, and the subtle energy in your body pulsing through. That prana, life force, full of love and acceptance and appreciation. I'll be ending the video here today, so feel free to hit pause and stay as long as you'd like here in Shavasana. Thank you so much for joining me on the mat, for taking the time to balance your yang with some yin. See you again on the mat soon. Namaste.